Hello, my name is Laurel Swisher, and I am a sophomore biology major at Bloomsburg University. The topic I will be discussing today is fracking and its impacts. To start off, what is fracking? Fracking is short for hydraulic fracturing. This is a process where a hole is drilled deep underground into a layer of rock, typically shale, with trapped oil and natural gas. I've included this picture of a fracking site here for context. When a predetermined depth is reached, horizontal drilling begins. This is done to increase the area of rock that can be accessed from one site. Fracking has been around since the late 1800s, but it was not combined with this technique of horizontal drilling until more recently in the 1980s. Once this pathway is created, a large volume of highly pressurized fracking fluid is injected from the surface. It is a misconception that this fluid is just water. While it primarily consists of water, it usually contains around 10% of other ingredients. The other two main components are chemical additives and a solid portion known as a proppant. Some types of proppants used are ceramics and sand that may be coated in resin. Most companies consider the exact composition confidential, but we do know that the majority of popular components used, especially the chemical agents, are quite hazardous. Some examples of fracking fluid include slick water, gels, and acid-based fluids. They each serve a different purpose that can be tailored to specific sites. When the fluid is done being used to extract natural gas and/or oil, it is pumped back out. However, it is usually only a small percentage, less than half, that makes it back to the surface. Afterwards, the waste fluid is typically even more toxic than it originally was due to the compounds it came into contact with underground. This waste has two common fates. It may be injected even deeper into the ground, or it may be treated and reused for additional fracking. As we know, the purpose of hydraulic fracturing is to extract natural gas and oil that cannot be reached by conventional drilling. These are valuable sources of non-renewable energy. A major argument in support of fracking is that it can be considered clean energy because burning natural gas and oil produce lower emissions than burning coal. While the latter is technically true, there is a major fallacy here. The physical extraction process emits compounds that are far more harmful than carbon dioxide. It is actually even more destructive than most other methods of obtaining non-renewables. I will discuss this further when I get into the global impacts. Another reason for the expansion of hydraulic fracking is much more of our easily accessible resources are rapidly depleted. So this more extreme tactic is being used increasingly to reach fuel that would otherwise remain untapped. Countries with a surplus of fossil fuels often want to take advantage of these resources and increase their GDP, boosting their economy. One major question I have had is why would countries not take advantage of the potential for more profit that exists in clean energy? I have come to find that there are several factors to this, but it seems to amount to convenience and immediate gain. Many countries have been depending on non-renewable energy for decades, so their industries such as mining and drilling are already well established. Some legislators and others in power find it more practical to continue with these practices which are already in place. This allows for short-term gain as opposed to the long-term benefits that would yield from investing in clean energy alternatives. Many countries across the globe are exploring fracking. Some, such as the United States, China, Canada, and Argentina, are large enough producers to be involved in commercial trade. The United States is currently the top producer in the world of both oil and natural gas. There has recently been an additional rise in fracking here under the current administration. In fact, our new Secretary of Energy was the CEO of a large fracking company. The administration as a whole is doing everything in their power to restrict renewable energy and promote fossil fuel use. As I previously mentioned, much of the fracking fluid cannot be pumped out of the ground, so it is left behind. This is one of the many ways fracking impacts the surroundings of its sites. This fluid remains under the surface in a disturbed area of rock, which creates an ideal opportunity for it to seep into nearby water supplies. Fracking can also deplete local water reservoirs. Millions of gallons of water are used per well, with up to 16 million gallons being used at some sites. This is not a negligible amount. Areas that are already low on water are especially affected. While issues like these will continue to worsen in the future if the hydraulic fracturing industry continues to expand, It is not just a future issue. There have already been communities in several countries, including Australia and Argentina, where populations have had limited access to potable water as a result of nearby fracking. This image shows one example from right here in Pennsylvania of what fracking can turn drinking water into. As you would imagine, fracturing large areas of underground rock and placing them under extreme pressure can significantly decrease stability. This can cause tremors and even earthquakes if the pressure or byproduct makes its way to a fault. These events are dangerous and they can destroy structures above the ground. The air pollutants released from fracking are also detrimental to humans once they reach certain concentrations. Methane is one of the gases that scientists are primarily concerned with. This also ties back into the topic of my previous podcast, which is biodiversity loss. The physical clearing for fracking sites, as well as the water pollution emitted, are primary causes for the loss of wildlife nearby. I also want to add that I tried to find resources that discuss the positives, but the majority of them blatantly misrepresent studies related to the effects of fracking. I found this to be the case on websites of energy organizations involved in fracking. Misinformation, including on topics like these, is becoming an increasingly large-scale problem, so I wanted to make sure I touched on this issue. It is important to remember that just because everything may seem normal due to the relatively slow pace of Earth's changes compared to our lifetime, humans have caused emissions and overall temperatures to spike. The rise in temperature is on trend to be detrimental to humans as well as other life even within this generation. While fracking is not the sole contributor to these issues, it is a growing component of the fossil fuel industry that is especially concerning. Both the extraction process of hydraulic fracturing itself and the combustion of the recovered fuels produce greenhouse gases. Methane is just one of these many pollutants. It is determined to be over 80 times worse than CO2 in terms of its contributions to global warming. The misinformation I mentioned in the previous slide also occurs with climate change studies, so we must pay close attention while researching topics like these. There are several ways these impacts could be reduced. For existing fracking companies, regulations and what information must be disclosed to the public should be in place, so they are aware of the health hazards around them. It is also essential for pollution emission to be monitored and limited. Some countries have banned most fracking, including Germany. France has banned it entirely. We may not need to stop using fossil fuels altogether, but implementing cleaner alternatives would be an act of investing in our future. It would create improvements for humans, animals, and the planet. There are positives and negatives of every energy source, but we must rapidly create a balance to cut down on the harmful effects of using so many non-renewables. It is also important for everyone to continue asking questions and doing research to ensure that we stay educated. We need to be informing others as well. This way, more people have the ability to advocate for our environment and the future of the planet. This is all I have for today, and thank you for watching.